Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, guys? Welcome to Law Explaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the chaos that is my life. We're not going to talk about it. Didn't have a stream yesterday. It was, like I said, I wasn't home. Expected to be, wasn't home. But like I said, not going to dwell on it. We're going to just get into this show tonight. There should be shows for the rest of the week. Everything's looking relatively normal. Briefly, several of my kids are in a theater production, and it's quote unquote tech week. If you've been in a theater production, that's also known as Hell Week. That's where you're there constantly. And this one's great because they keep dropping new costume requirements, and the parents are required to procure the costumes. So it's been a blast. It's been wonderful. It hasn't been stressful at all. Lady Rackets has been moving fucking mountains, but hey, that's where we are right now. So anyway, we are going to ignore that and all the shit that comes with, and we're just going to get into this show. So tonight, I got this topic. It's going to be a little bit more. There's a news article for it as a basis, but and it's about the cop, Yanez, Officer Yanez, who shot. This is a Minnesota guy. He shot Philando Castile, if you remember that one, where the guy like pulls over the dark-skinned individual, and then he just he like immediately blams him through the window of the car. It's not that simple. Philando was reaching for something. This guy was found, I believe, was found not guilty in the long run, but so he's not like in prison forever or anything like some of the other guys. But these guys have to face the reality of living after being publicized as a race murderer, which is, when you think about it, not so damn easy to do. Like, if you're labeled by everybody on earth as a race murderer, it's hard to like get a job or go to functions, get an apartment or a house, like live with neighbors, especially depending on the community you end up in. It's an interesting concept to me to think about what these people go through when they're found not guilty. And look, you guys know me. I'm not normally on the side of cops in general. I default in opposition to the police when it involves the killing of a citizen. And there are plenty of times where they are justified. Don't get me wrong. When I see it, I point it out. I point out any particular problems. And sometimes there's a legal reality of being legally justified, but we have to ask, do we want this to be the legal reality? Like Daniel Shaver getting shot in the fucking hallway of a hotel down in Arizona, right? Because he was asked to follow several ridiculous instructions, and including like having his hands up, he's on his knees with his ankles have to be crossed, and he's wearing gym shorts that are baggy and go down to his knees because he's a degenerate who doesn't understand the glory of short shorts. Yeah, don't be Daniel Shaver. Wear short shorts, guys. What? You want to die in a fucking hallway? Is that what you want? You want to be shot in a fucking hallway by an overzealous cop with an AR-15? No, wear short shorts. Never happened to you. But anyway, so he's being asked to be on his knees with his hands up above his head, like a weirdo, to have his ankles crossed and to move on his knees towards the police, who could just have him lay face down on the ground and put his hands behind his head like they would a normal person. But they don't do that. They're barking these orders at this guy. And as he's going, his knees catch the shorts and start pulling him down. He's like, oh no, my penis is going to flop out. He's really worried about that. So his hand comes down and goes to his waistband to try and pull his pants up. Well, he gets blammed right in the hallway. And they found this a justifiable homicide. This wasn't race related, and this one's white guy, so it's okay, I guess. But they found it to be a justifiable homicide because his hand went to his waist. What if he was grabbing for a gun? Sure, it's gym shorts, and if he's grabbing for a gun in the waistband, you'd probably see it, but maybe not. You never know. And yeah, like, that killing's justified legally But do we want that to be justified legally? Do we want that to be the outcome? There's like 7 cops there. They said they were worried about like not being able to clear the room behind him. It's like, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you have him lay down, have someone come up in front? They're covered, cuff him, detain him, and then move past him, clear the rooms behind him. But that's how it goes. So we have these questions about justifiable use of force, deadly force in particular, from police in particular, and in this case, from police against citizens of basketball. And when that happens, lately it's been decried publicly. The media makes a circus out of it, and the cop, no matter what their status, no matter who they are, what their record is or anything, gets immediately vilified. And the media finds some way to make this person into David Duke with a murder fetish. They want the blood story and they want the racial violence because they want to sell clicks. And it doesn't matter what happens to the cops afterwards, because even if they're completely acquitted, like the guy who shot Mike Brown, right? 100% justified in shooting Mike Brown. All of the testimony in the initial media reports were debunked by the grand jury. How's that guy doing? Can you get another job? Like you want to be a cop your whole life? Not anymore. Sorry. The media determined that you're a race murderer. Kyle Rittenhouse did a similar thing. Even though he shot a bunch of white guys, they convinced people that he shot black guys. And so people are like, I hate him more now. It's kind of weird. It's a weird thing that people do. I don't know. Like, are you happier when... Don't answer that. Don't answer that. I was not going to ask if you were happier when one race gets killed than another. That would have been a terrible question, and it would have procured terrible answers. Don't put them in the chat. God, it's horrible. So anyway, so we're going to talk about that. And it's going to be, again, that sort of the philosophical approach to the topic, because I do a lot of, I guess, colder analysis. It's not really cold. Like, I'm joking. It doesn't matter. I don't always delve into like what the realities of things are and what like the implications are in the long term and in society, and like how does that shape and impact police departments? I don't know if you guys noticed, but they're not doing great. So we'll talk about that. And then we have the Supreme Court versus Texas immigration ban. So Texas, I call it an immigration ban, but they drafted a law. And I think there's another state that did it too, or a couple others, but you can arrest someone. You can arrest someone on suspicion that they're in the country illegally, is what the law says. The Supreme Court's saying, no, you can't do that. Fuck you. And Texas is like, well, we kind of can though. And it's a really good question, because how they've justified stopping this practice is they say it's racial profiling. It's like, but the law is facially neutral on race. Like, it's not like, well, they look Mexican, so I'm going to, like, maybe they do, and maybe that's why you arrest them. Maybe you're like, oh, that's a Mexican. That's a Mexican in Utah. That's not right. So maybe you arrest them on suspicion of being in the country legally for that. It's obviously more complicated, but that's how the justification goes. But it's not necessarily that. Maybe it's a Swedish person or a Norwegian. If I hear that accent, I immediately think they're illegal because no one wants them around. Am I right? I think so. But either way, so they have this law that says you can arrest on suspicion of illegal immigration. It's facially neutral racially. However, the reality is the southern border is obviously going to be predominantly crossed by Hispanic people, right? Like that's the idea, mostly from Mexico, but even from countries a little bit farther south, like Nicaragua, as Obama would have said it, or Honduras, as George Bush would have said it. But like they come up from the southern border, and that's the most likely outcome. But there are all sorts of stories now about the increase of Chinese people actually coming to Mexico and then coming across the southern border of the United States. I think Chinese are the second highest southern border crossing illegal immigrant population right now, which is a little surprising after Mexico. So you have these problems and you have these things, but the media version is always that, oh, they're just arresting the people that are a different shade of, like, 50 Shades of Brown or whatever, and that's the problem. But that's not necessarily true. And since the law is facially neutral, you have to get into the different impacts that it has on the different races and prove out that it's specifically racist. But when you think about it, like the most likely outcome is that it's going to seem racist. Like there's not a bunch of like there's not a bunch of Swiss coming across the southern border of the United States. There's like a scenario where that could happen, but it's not the reality. Like you're going to see a disparate impact just because the predominant population there is going to be Latino. Like it's Latinx, Latina. So wait, are they burritos? Are they tacos? Or is it just a mixed plate? I fucking love that orange rice though. Okay, anyway, I got sidetracked. And then we're going to get into the Her report on Biden. Special prosecutor, special investigator, some guy, Her, I don't remember his first name. We'll get to it in the article. But he interviewed Joe Biden. And he ended up saying that Biden comes across as like an old man with memory problems. Now, he didn't suggest any prosecution. This is about Biden retaining top secret documents after he left the vice presidency, right? And like the thing that they're really going after Trump for, they're like, he's the worst president ever. Like Biden did the same thing, but Biden's like, well, I forgot. I guess like I don't even know when my birthday is. Is it ice cream time? Are there 8-year-olds? And that's so they had this interview with this special prosecutor, and then Biden came out and said all of this stuff about the interview, but it wasn't true. And they finally released the transcripts, and this guy, Her, H-U-R, not H-E-R. They don't allow women to do this. But this guy, Her, he is now like talking about how he's vindicated, how he did this, how Biden does have memory lapses. Biden even went so far as to say that there were a bunch of questions asked about his Hunter, the dead one, his son, though. And turns out that didn't even happen. Like that wasn't even true. This guy didn't ask any questions about that particular person. And Joe Biden just lied about it. Or he misremembered because he's a senile old fucking weirdo who likes to sniff children. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. And I do have some other stories and maybe we'll get to them. We'll see. We'll see. It's been a hell of a week and it's only Tuesday. Let's jump into it. Let's hit these super chats and then we'll move on. Ovid says, hey, Nick, did you hear about that anime writer that just died? I did. I think his name was Kentaro Miura. No, Kentaro Miura is still alive. He's writing Berserk, obviously. You plebeian. It was Miyazaki. It's definitely Miyazaki. Miyazaki is the guy who invented One Piece and also Attack on Titan. So it's him who died, thank God, because One Piece and Attack on Titan are too long. Really bummed. Now who is going to finish Dragon Berserk Z? No, don't worry. Toriyama is still alive for Dragon Berserk Z. And Kentaro Miura, I think he did Tokyo Godfathers too. He was that like shitty comedy writer. They're still alive, and it was Miyazaki who died. If anybody says anything else, they're lying to you. I'm the foremost expert on anime deaths, particularly of writers of anime, because you know my opinion on anime storytelling. C Chains, nice name, says, hey, Nick, can you please wish my little sister, who watches the shows with me, happy birthday? She's turning 17 and is on Principal's honor roll. Hey, C Chains' little sister who's 17 watching the show. I'm sorry that your parents have failed you. I'm sorry that your brother has failed you. I'm sorry that everybody has allowed you to watch the show that is wildly inappropriate for anyone under the age of 86. But happy birthday. Enjoy turning 17. Don't talk to me ever again. Look, keep being on the honor roll. Keep doing well. Go forward in life. And really, sincerely, listen to the people in your life who are successful in their relationships, who are successful in their professions, who are successful in their social interactions, because those are the people to emulate, not weirdos on any other, any social media platform like me. Not weirdos on social media, not crazy people telling you about the realities of men and women. Just observe the people in your real life who you can watch live. They have a lot of wisdom for you. Cheers to you. Happy birthday. Thanks for watching the show, even though it should be illegal. Luis Sueva says, Beta Ricada streams on legal topics versus Chad Mindset streaming on with VTuber waifus. You know what? If Legal Mindset is good at anything, it's a lot of things. But I guess probably also streaming with VTuber waifus. And may he touch all of them. Hugo, how do you even touch it? Like, did you just go touch the paper? It's not even paper. It's just digital. Hugo Etano says, been since I've popped in. Hope you and chat have been good. Been since I popped in. Yes, me too. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for hanging out and dropping a super chat. I don't know if chat's been good or chat. Are you good or bad? Like, not, you know what I mean? Not like, are you good or bad behavior, chat? No, not behavior. No, wait, that's the wrong way. Are you doing well? That's what I mean to ask. Me, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Pyrofusion Dancer says kind of mid. Dude, some days it be like that. Some days it do be like that. No, it do be. I can't. Ever since I got my skin transplant, I can't talk black anymore. Billdozer74 says, you should have EVS on after his Adolf impression on tonight's Trash Cast. It was exquisite. I would love to have EVS on and talk to him about what's been going on. His Trash Cast program has been fucking taking off. It's doing killer numbers. He's doing great. I know he's loving it. I know he's talking about Ripa and all that stuff, and then other people too. I think it's like just a comics gate, or like a comics review channel or something. I don't know. I heard Yaira broke $1 million, so big congratulations. You're welcome, Eric. I kept wishing you would make $1 million. You have several times, so awesome. Keep going, brother. I wish you millions more, maybe even 1 billion someday, but you'll have to get that Kanye Yeezy money before you can do that. Cheers to Yaira. Even though it's written by some weirdos or something, I don't know what's going on there. I keep seeing glimpses and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. And if I'm uncomfortable, I'm like a broken man. So if I'm uncomfortable, something's wrong. But let's get into this first topic. Thank you, Billdozer74. But yeah, I'll talk to EVS. I would love to have him on again. He's always a good friend, and he's always a great live stream partner. So here we go. Here is this. Oh, yeah. Look at Yanez. See the evil white man who shot Philando Castile? Because remember, that's what they said. Look at, first of all, his name is literally fucking Yanez. And they're like, white cop shoots black guy. Well, there might have been some tinting exaggeration. Maybe, I don't know. Swamp says 1 out of 9 Marines died because of a cold, cracked mortar. Hashtag truth. 9 Marines died. Wait, is that January 9th? I don't know what the fuck that means, but I believe you. Cheers. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so here you go. This is the guy who shot Philando Castile. I don't know if you guys remember that police interaction or not. We'll talk about it here a little bit. So this is from St. Paul, Minnesota Associated Press, which was repeated by KSCP TV, Minneapolis, St. Paul. A Minnesota board was justified, a teaching board, when it rejected a substitute teaching license for a former police officer who fatally shot a black man during a traffic stop in 2016. An appeals court ruled Monday. Okay, listen to how depressing that headline is, even without the black guy getting killed. So a former police officer was rejected a substitute teaching license. Holy fuck. Like, you are hard up, man. I know some substitute teachers that are very great people and very wonderful, and they really love that role. But like, if you're depending on yourself being a substitute teacher, probably want to go to the Byerly's and tell them you can spell produce or something, because that is like, you're in a rough fucking spot. Substitute teaching is not stable income. It's not, it doesn't have advancement potential, really. Like, it's like, I guess it's like dipping your toes in a lake and thinking you're going to swim in a volcano. That's not fun. Now, of course, you have to tack on that he shot a black guy. Oh, and not only that, it's like a black guy that a bunch of people like, oh, wait, no. The irony of this is even funnier. Like, not funny. It's more serious. Guys, Philando Castile worked at a school. He's like a cafeteria guy that everybody loved. Oh, Jesus. So it's like the substitute teacher shot the guy who made your sandwiches. And he had dreadlocks. He probably didn't put mayo on them. Maybe hot sauce. That's fucking mean. What do you teach? I don't teach anything. I just stand in when other teachers leave. Do you even know geography? Yeah, it's triangles and shit. Oh my God, no. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm making soup. Blam! Die, soup maker. It's not good. I'm not going to ask that. No, that's not a good headline. You don't want that on your resume. Do you put that on your resume? Okay. Let's take a pause from the story because this is unimportant. When you're writing your resume, like when you're like 18 or whatever, you write down the 2 jobs you've ever had, and then you write down like the club you did in high school that helps you with leadership. Like everybody knows this move, right? You're like, where have you worked? Like, well, I worked at Subway, and I was a football referee for like little kids or whatever. And then I also was in the leadership program at my high school to help kids who are struggling. That's literally close to my actual resume. But that's what you do at first, like because you don't have any work experience. But then when you're like 30 and you've been through a bunch of depressing jobs, you like pick the ones that are most important and have the most relevant skills for the job you're applying for. You're like, oh yeah, this one is like, if you're applying in finance, like, well, this is a banking job I did. Here's an accounting thing I did. And here's like a thing I did that is almost manual labor, except they gave me a pencil. Like, so you pick the things that are closest. You pick like 3 or 4, because you don't want to drop like a 12-page resume on just about anybody. You want a short resume that they can get through in like a page, 2 pages max, depending on the type of job. And so you pick and choose. If you're this guy, are you ever like, yeah, I was a cop in Minneapolis once? Don't Google me. You just put that in parentheses. Don't Google me. Just trust, homie. Because that's not good. It's like, oh, you said you were a cop. What are your relevant skills? Tasing. Yelling at children. Oh, shooting a black guy in a car. Oh, he was a school cook? God, you're an asshole. There's no... Now, full disclosure, I don't know this guy. I don't know Yanez. Like, I'm from Minnesota. Or Yanez. I said Yanez. Geronimo Yanez. Sue upright. I don't know him. I've never met him. I know I live in Minnesota. It's a small town, but I don't. However, I personally know people who know him. I know some people who are cops, and I know people whose like spouses are involved in like the Back the Blue movement and stuff like that. And I know people who know this guy personally, and everything I've heard about him is he's super nice. Like, he's just a chill, straight up dude, got caught up in a bad fucking situation, and ended up like, he's terrified at this stop. And the stop was, look, he was pulling over a suspect of an armed robbery, if I remember right. And he knows that Philando Castile matched the description because he had a broad set nose. It wasn't racial. He was a broad set, the wide nostrils, they were flaring or whatever. And so he pulls over this guy. Now, joking aside, you put yourself in Yanez's shoes here. Kept calling him Yanez. That was very racist. Geronimo Yanez. Sorry, brother. You put yourself in his shoes and you go, you're pulling over an armed robbery suspect in your head, right? Like, if he's telling the truth. And the guy's fucking terrified when he walks up to the car. If you watch the video, he's like shaking, and like he gets up to the car and he's like, hey, I need you to blam, blam, blam. And he just shoots him right out. And Philando, according to the testimony, and I think there may have been video, I can't remember if there was video inside the cop car, but he was basically like kind of nodding along, but still reaching towards the like below the seat. And this guy thought he had a gun. It happens really fast. So anyway, you think about it and you try and put yourself in his shoes. It's like, that's fucking scary. Because you're pulling over someone who, if you arrest them, if you serve, like, if it's actually the right person, you arrest them, they're going to go to prison for 10 years, 15 years. You don't know. It could be a long time. They may not want to go there. Lots of people don't want to go to that resort, the St. Cloud State Penitentiary in Minnesota. They don't want to end up there because people stab them sometimes or hit them with rocks, and it's not the most fun. So they try and avoid it by shooting whoever tries to take them there, or it's like stabbing them or biting them or whatever. And so it's kind of a scary thing. And he made some missteps, but in the end, like, he shot the guy. They determined it was justified. But it's not the easiest thing to do. Like, these traffic stops aren't as trivial as people make them out to be. Siren Jag says hot sauce on the dreadlocks. Well, if you're eating the dreadlocks, I prefer thin noodles. I like angel hair, you know? Dreadlocks are more like a mastacholi or something. Why is my left ear so red? I actually don't know. I was laying on my left side before, like I was hanging out with Lady Rags. I was just kind of laying on my bed on the left side before the show. So maybe it's from that. Maybe it's because I, put it in a blender. I'm not sure. That's a good question. But yeah. So anyway, back to this story. This is a sad fucking headline. He's just trying to be a substitute teacher. Like, what's he going to sub for? Marksmanship? The Minnesota Court of Appeals affirmed the findings of the Minnesota Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. That's a fucking mouthful. Which concluded Geronimo Yanez did not meet the moral standards to teach in public schools. Guys, remember that the public school system is one of the largest sources of child molesters on the planet. And they're like, this guy doesn't measure up to our moral standards. This guy doesn't. Like, if it's not a child molester, it's like a still bleeding lesbian who's like, let me tell you about my wife. It's like, do you beat her? Yes. Like, or it's a trans person, like, let me tell you how to become her wife. Like, they're like, well, this guy's not moral. He didn't meet the moral standards, the high vaunted position of the teaching system. I've met a few licensed teachers in my day. I don't know if any of them, like, a lot of them are good people or whatever, but I don't ever go morality as like the first word that comes to mind when I meet a teacher. Like educator, helpful, caring, compassionate, but I'm not like moral, because that's weird. That's a weird assessment. It's also not generally true. Like, some of them are pretty freaky. So you can't like just, but anyway, they're like, this guy, he's not moral. It's like, oh God, they have some weirdos working at the fuck. They have weirdos working at the school that they protect. And this guy doesn't make it. Yeah, he didn't meet the moral standards required to teach in public schools. So the court had sent the case back to the licensing board in 2022, because originally the board said, no, he's not. He doesn't fit our moral standards. And they're like, no, you got to try again. So to reconsider its initial rejection of Yanez's teaching license application, which was based on, quote, immoral character or conduct. Well, I'm not going to be a substitute teacher. The court said that the reason was unconstitutionally vague and ordered the board to focus narrowly on whether Yanez's conduct made him unfit to teach. Okay, I am going to get serious for a second. So this is something I talked about the other day. When you come across a state actor infringing on a fundamental right, and typically speech and expression are the fundamental rights where we see a lot of protection. In this case, you're saying, well, this guy has immoral character conduct. What the fuck does that even mean? What the fuck does that even mean? I challenge you to find someone who can accurately define morality in the same way that you or anyone else does. It's really not that simple. Like, we have a general idea of what is moral versus immoral. Like, if you take an axe and chop a pregnant woman in half, you're moral if you work for Planned Parenthood, but otherwise you're immoral, right? Like, most people are like, that's immoral. You can't just axe a woman to death. You can ask her a question, but you can't ask her to death. That's not good. And if the baby's in there, that's double well, it's like 1.5 ungood. So you can't do that. So you have to like figure out outside of these big principles of morality, like stealing bikes is moral for some people and immoral for others. And then you've got, generally like fraud and deception. Those things are, most of the people are like, yeah, I don't want that. That's immoral. But we have these broad concepts of immorality, but trying to define what morality actually is hard. So I have a definition that it's my working definition. So bear with me on this. I'm sharing this with you out of the goodness of my heart, and maybe it'll be useful for you or maybe not. But I think this is critical. Now, before the Christians in chat fucking rail me to death on this, please hear me out. Do I think there is an objective morality? Yes. I think there's an objective moral good. I believe in a creator, a Christian God, Judeo-Christian. Maybe he's got high interest. I believe in a Christian God who has some sort of idea of what it is to be right and be wrong, and it's based on his set of rules. Now, do I think that humans accurately have ever portrayed it. No, not really. I think we try and we try really well, but I think that God gives grace a little bit for us to kind of screw up as long as we're giving it a shot. Right. But I do think there is like ultimately an objective morality, right? If there's a penultimate deity who sets the rules of the universe, and there obviously is an objective morality. He's like, whatever I say. It's like, yes, sir, that's right. Or ma'am. Sir, probably. Like, that's got to be correct. So I do think that there is, but I don't think that we accurately assess it anywhere on earth. I think we make our best guesses. So before you say, oh, he's a relativist, I'm not actually a relativist. I do believe in objective morality. I do. And watching Big Bang Theory is immoral objectively. So know that I'm correct in this. But also, my definition of morality for humanity, because humans are fucked up and they get it wrong all the time, is simple. It is proper behavior under a given cultural set of ethics, which means that it's going to vary by geography, your moral behavior. And obviously it does. Like in some places you eat peanut butter, in other places you eat bugs. Proper behavior varies by location, by culture, by demographics, by age, by education, by wealth, by a whole bunch of factors. So morality is like on earth practically is relative to the society and the culture you're in at the time of your action, and is proper behavior under their accepted set of ethics. That's a good way to think about this. So then you think about, okay, what is immoral character or conduct when we're talking about a Minnesota public school teacher? Because I don't know if you guys know this, but your out of work activity as a public school teacher is generally not reviewable for termination unless it directly impacts your ability to teach and educate. So like OnlyFans chicks who are teachers, they tend to run into this problem because the eighth graders are looking up their butt pictures on OnlyFans or whatever. Like they borrow their dad's credit card and just sign into his account, and they're looking at butthole pictures of their teacher, their English teacher. Obviously, like that poses a problem because now the kids can't look at their teacher without seeing the starfish, and that's not acceptable. That literally impacts their ability to educate. So that becomes a problem. But let's say they're not on OnlyFans, right? They're just a hoe. Privately. Like a private hoe. That doesn't impact their teaching ability unless they're sleeping with the dads or the moms at the school, like, or the kids. Sometimes happens. Don't do that. Like if they're doing that, that impacts the ability to educate. But if they're just like, if they have a body count of 6,000, it doesn't matter like to their teaching ability unless somehow that gets brought into the classroom, right? So what is immoral behavior for a teacher? It has to be something that is actually brought into the classroom and impacts the education. That's why the reason I'm bringing this up is that's why the appeals court is saying this is overbroad, because just saying immoral character or conduct is going to sweep up protected activity. Like you can worship the devil and sacrifice cats or whatever. Like you shouldn't. But like if the kids don't know, like it doesn't matter so much. That's illegal. Don't kill cats unless you eat. So anyway, I just wanted to point out like the realities of the legal implications of immoral character or conduct. You run up against this First Amendment free expression or maybe free religion or whatever it is, free speech issue, and they have to weigh that out and they have to say, okay, well, the government can set a moral standard for teaching, but it has to be limited to how it impacts the educator's ability to safely educate children. If it doesn't impact the ability to educate children, it can't be considered. That's why it's overbroad. So that's why they sent it back. That's a long explanation, but it's an important one, maybe. I don't know. Where else do you get this? You get better explanations somewhere else, but not so many that involve killing cats. So the board then conducted further proceedings, and they denied it a second time. Yanez, a former St. Anthony police officer, that's your first mistake. You're not making any money in St. Anthony. You got to go work in a different saint, like St. Paul. He shot Philando Castile during a traffic stop after Castile volunteered that he had a gun. Oh, yeah, he told him he had a gun. I forgot. And then he was like reaching down by his crotch. Authorities later discovered that Castile, a 32-year-old St. Paul Elementary School cafeteria worker, Like, he couldn't have shot someone terrible, right? He's not like serial rapist. No, you get a school cafeteria worker. Had a permit for the firearm. Well, they later found out that he had a permit. That's cool. The case got widespread attention after Castile's girlfriend was in the car with her young daughter, began live streaming the shooting's aftermath on Facebook. Oh, yeah, that was Diamond. Was her name Diamond? Her name was some stupid thing. And she's like, they shot my man. And he's sitting there like, he's got holes in his lungs or whatever. He's like, he's like, he died. And he's like, bitch, drive me to the hospital. No, she's like, he's gonna die. And then I think she like got money for it too, which is really like that's the grift. That's a good one. Yanez was acquitted of manslaughter. Castile's death, which preceded the killing of George Floyd. Oh, thank God. You know what? How shitty is it that every Thanksgiving, Geronimo Yanez sits down around the dinner table with his family. He's like, God, thank you for George Floyd dying after Philando Castile. Because, like, if George Floyd had died first, I'd be on death row right now. Like, that's a weird thanks. I'm, like, thankful for, like, my health and the health of my children. He's like, thank you for George Floyd dying later, because I would be killed. Again, this is the weird reality that these people live in. We don't think about this. Like, you don't have to worry about this unless you shoot people of different races. Like, otherwise you just don't have to consider that your Thanksgiving is that strange. Oh shit. Dull and Tired says subs make $260 a day in my district. Oh, substitute teachers. I thought I went a different way. Simon Ardeline says, hey Nick, toast my wife Krista, who gave birth to our second child, who was born on Sunday. Couldn't have done it without her. Oh, I thought you were going to say without me. And if men had babies, gestation would be 3 weeks instead of 9 months. Yeah, we just get that shit done. Because you yell to get, you're like, grow. Oh my God, stop crying about it and just get bigger. Get out. Get out. Yes, I will. I need we've got Brother Justice is the whiskey I'm drinking tonight. And it's pretty good. It's an American single malt whiskey. It's only 43% alcohol. It's not a lot for whiskey before you, like if you don't know. But it's tasty. Oh shit. It's got a word on, like it's got words on it. Minnesota contains the northernmost reaches of America's oak savanna. White oak up here is different. Shaped by cold winters and short growing seasons, we spent years selecting the barley malt and developing the techniques needed to showcase the world's coldest oak. After less than 1 year in the barrel, the result is smooth layers of butterscotch, grilled stone fruit, and a spice and campfire finish. I love this. We only age it a year, but it is good though. Please pay us. It actually is a good whiskey. But here we go. Simon Ardeline. He says, in all seriousness, I couldn't imagine my life without her. Of course not, brother. Like, I was just making a joke. I get it. But a toast to your wife, Krista, who gave birth to your second child. Let me get larger. A toast to your wife, Krista, who gave birth to your second child. May she and that child bring you years and years of joy. May you and her learn so much trying to keep your 2 children and maybe more in the future as good people who grew up with good moral character, we just talked about. And may you learn so much from your children as they see the world in a completely different and far less jaded way than you. Cheers to you. Cheers to her. Cheers to baby. I'm glad for a happy delivery. May you guys have many years of health and prosperity. Hope you make $1 million. Interior Hypertext said, I made a mistake after helping my boss solve a critical problem. And he said, you're fired. Sarcastically, I'm a paralegal and worked at that firm for 7 years. Should I ask him about it? I'm crying. Wait, so your boss said you're fired and you don't know if you are? Like, really? That's kind of funny. So you helped solve a problem and you're like, and then he's like, oh, that's thanks. You're fired. That was shitty of you. Yes, you should ask him about it. Okay, this is weird because but am I really fired? Should I show up tomorrow? Actually, just ask what time you should show up. I call in late. Like, hey, boss, I'm sniffling and I'm going to be a little late today. Be like, late? You're fired, you fucking idiot. Then you know. Try that. And I just say traffic's bad. I'm going to try and make it on time. Make it on time to what? Your job interview at a different place? Then you know. Don't actually be late. Like, don't leave. I don't recommend that. I'm just saying, like, come up with a thing, like, call your boss and be like, oh, I'm trying to make it there. I think I'm going to make it okay, but I just want to let you know. Find out that way. That's a good one. Or just show up like normal and go work, because you're probably not fired. Try that one out. Just wear underwear though. Okay, so yeah, Yanez was acquitted of manslaughter, Castile's death, which precedes the killing of George Floyd. A black man whose death at the hands, it was the knees of a white police officer in 2020. Is a long arm of fentanyl. 2020 launched a nationwide reckoning on race. Oh yeah. In 2020, we had a reckoning on race. That's what definitely happened. That's a great way to describe that. Also led to massive public outcry and protests in Minnesota and beyond. Yanez quit law enforcement after his trial and eventually began teaching Spanish part-time at a parochial school. God damn it. And like, why? Why is it funny? It shouldn't be. In reconsidering Yanez's license application, the board concluded Yanez racially profiled Castile when he stopped him, thinking he might be a robbery suspect. Like, to be fair to Yanez, the description was a man, because they won't say black anymore, with a broad nose and dreadlocks. If I remember right, like, it was pretty, like, it's just an audio description. Like, oh, that could be him. But anyway, experts who testified, including Joseph Gotthard, his name is Gotthard, a superintendent of St. Public Schools. Why would a guy named Gotthard be around children? Who asserted Yanez's prejudgments of Castile indicated bias and microaggressions that would be detrimental to students, especially students of colors. Guys, he didn't microaggression Castile to death. He macroaggression the fuck out of that guy. He put bullets in him. It's not like he was like, I won't respect your pronouns. I bet you eat watermelon. No, he's like, bam, bam, bam. What microaggressions do you even see from this guy? Look at him. He's like, I only do one thing micro. But you'll still like it. It's not, he did, like, what okay. All right. Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. So wait, where was the where did I miss this? I was just there. Yeah. Oh, I skipped part of this. Sorry, I jumped down. Let me get back to it. I jumped ahead. Sorry. ADD. In reconsidering Yanez's license application, board concluded he racially profiled Castile when he stopped him, thinking he might be a robbery suspect, and said his decision to fire 7 shots into the car not only killed Castile, but endangered the lives of his girlfriend and her daughter. Actually, they didn't. It's amazing. They didn't somehow, and like, this bothered me, but they didn't hit the girlfriend or the daughter. He had laser focus on Castile. The board found that those actions ran contrary to provisions of the ethics code for Minnesota teachers. Yeah, shooting a black guy 7 times is against the ethics of Minnesota teachers, I guess, on non-discrimination. Now, if he would have shot, guys, like, think about how I want you to honestly, like, jokes aside, I've been joking a lot in this episode, and I'm sorry because I know I'm not a comedian, but jokes aside, the problem is not that he shot someone 7 times. The problem is it violated the ethics code on non-discrimination. If he would have shot a white guy 7 times, it would be okay under the non-discrimination code because he didn't discriminate. Because you can't discriminate against white people. By the way, big shout out to Joe. Good Logic, my good friend. Thank you for rating the channel. Thank you to all of Joe's viewers. Hang out. We're talking about shooting black people and how you can't be a substitute teacher afterwards because they were black, not because you shot someone. Think about this shit. Like, it's not that a cop shot a citizen and it was suspect, even though there was acquitted. Like, there's questions about it. No. Like, well, he shot a black guy. And you're like, oh my God, this is the reality. Remember, they're the ones who said he was unethical. The board found that those actions ran contrary to provisions of the ethics code for Minnesota teachers on non-discrimination, exercising disciplinary authority and protecting students from harm. Wait, can we find this? Minnesota, hold on. Minnesota teachers ethics non-discrimination. Maybe we can read this section real quick. Code of Ethics for Minnesota Teachers, study.com. Let's see. Standards of professional. Oh, wait, no, that's fucking locked up. Here we go. Minnesota Code of Ethics for Teachers. We've got to find the non-discrimination policy. I've got to find it. Licensure, clinical experience, no. Shit, hold on. That's not it. Code of Ethics for Minnesota Teachers. Oh, God, these are fucking garbage. I just want the Code of Ethics for Teachers policy on if you can shoot black people or not. You got to create an account to find out if you can shoot black people. This doesn't seem fair. Code of Ethics, standard of professional conduct. Hold on, let me see. Let me find discrimination. So it says a teacher shall provide education services in a non-discriminatory manner. That's the standard of professional conduct. That's all it is. Here it is. I'll show you guys. This is the ethics code, the Code of Ethics for Minnesota Teachers, the administrative rules, section 8710.2100. That's what we're looking at here. So this is the code. Standards of professional conduct are as follows. A teacher shall provide professional education services in a non-discriminatory manner. Now, I don't think this is fair because he's only had the opportunity to shoot a black guy. Like, what if he would have also shot a white guy and a Korean? Like, do we know? What if he's like, yeah, I don't like them either? Is that okay? Like, if he's non-discriminatory because he hates everyone, maybe that's okay. This, like, again, this is just the weirdest fucking thing to me because it's like, well, it was discriminatory, and that's the problem. It's like, I thought the bullets were. Lord of the Ree says, hey, Nick, can you elaborate on how the ADL was formed to protect a Jewish pedophile and blamed a black guy because not only are they pedophiles, but also racist? Thanks, God bless. I don't know anything about that. I love the state of Israel and our Lord and Masters, and the Anti-Defamation League is the greatest institution to ever live. Gino says, I have a friend. Prove it. I've watched him go downhill over the past 4 years due to his drinking. How do I tell him to straighten up? Don't. There you go. That would be the best. But if you must tell it to him over glasses of whiskey. It will help. All right, so here we go. On Monday, the appeals court said the board followed the proper legal standards this time and made a decision based on extensive evidence. The extensive evidence that he shot a black guy, not a white guy. Experts who testified inclusive. This is what I read earlier. Included Joseph Gotthard, superintendent of St. Paul Public Schools, who asserted Yanez's prejudgments of Castile indicated bias and microaggressions that would be detrimental to students, especially students of color. Now, mind you, his prejudgments of Philando Castile are he was given the description of someone who is an armed robbery suspect who would be armed and had just committed a felony with a very serious penalty. That was his prejudgments were based on like facts delivered to him to look for someone. But okay, it's bias and microaggressions. Quote, Dr. Gotthard questioned Yanez's ability to meet the ethical demands for a diverse student population and opined that Yanez's presence as a teacher in a Minnesota classroom posed a risk of re-traumatizing students, staff, and families, the appeals court noted. They're going to get re-traumatized, I guess. Like, while he's in there, Philando died every day that he showed up. Yanez's attorney, Robert Fowler, I've seen that guy's name a million times. Maybe I should talk to him. Said the board lacks any expertise on policing issues to draw any conclusions on whether Yanez should be allowed to teach. Mr. Fowler, if I may, emulate the board. Bro, It ain't about the policing policies. Policing policies are fine. It's about the fact that he chose to shoot a black man because he was black. How dare you say otherwise? Quote, the licensing board cherry-picked its finding to make biased conclusions. No, Fowler said in an email. Quote, unfortunately, the court was not willing to take up these difficult political issues. They are difficult. Literally, they are. Instead, just rubber stamped the agency's decision. This whole case is further proof that issues surrounding police are not able to be decided in a fair and unbiased manner. I actually agree with that, even though I don't like police. The attorney said Yanez continues to teach at the parochial school. Well, that's nice. Maybe the parochials, they must not be diverse. Look, so here's the problem with this. Now, I agree. I legitimately don't think that Yanez and his involvement by pulling the trigger and killing Philando Castile, and I didn't really I didn't like that shooting that much. Legally justified, maybe, but I wasn't a fan. And I trash talked him a lot. But in fairness, I don't think that the shooting of Philando Castile has anything to do with his ability to substitute teach. Now, depending on the school that he's in, there might be some question, like you don't want to put him in like a North Minneapolis school, or you definitely don't want to put him in the same school that Philando was a cafeteria worker. Like you don't want to do that. That'd be bad. Did you guys have Italian dunkers in school as a school lunch? It's just a big piece of French bread, which doesn't make sense, covered in cheese, and they gave you shitty marinara sauce, but it was delicious. I bet Philando made a mean Italian dunker. No. Lord of the Rings says a rabbi and a priest were walking down the street and saw a small child playing in their front yard. The priest said, let's screw him. And the rabbi said, out of what? Oh my God. That's offensive. That's very offensive. But yeah, like I legitimately don't see how this guy's involvement in one police shooting, he doesn't have a particular history of racial animus in the police force, how that says, well, you can't do it. But that's not the question. And remember, this is the hard part of legal analysis versus moral or political or ethical or whatever analysis you want. Legal analysis says this: the appeals court is only asked whether the board has sufficient discretionary authority to make the determination in a constitutional manner. So originally the board said immoral character or behavior. Appeals court says you can't make your determination based on that. It's overbroad. You're going to sweep up other activity that's protected First Amendment or otherwise activity. You can't do that. So they go back and they say, okay, well, now we've determined that he has demonstrated racial animus, that racial animus would be a problem in a diverse student population. They could be wrong. Their determination could be incorrect. And this is where people mistake discretionary authority and where it's really uncomfortable. We may not like the outcome and we may want to change it. Remember that whole justification versus what should be justified applies here as well. It's not about whether they're right in their assessment of Yanez. It's about whether they have the authority to make the determination. If they have the authority to make the determination, they get to make that determination whether or not they're right or wrong. In this case, it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong about Yanez and if his shooting of Philando Castile will have any impact on substitute teaching. My contention is it would not, absolutely would not have any impact on his ability to teach. If you put him in the same school that Philando worked, there could be problems. Obviously, you don't want to do that. But you put him out in a different city in Minnesota, a different suburb, or in outstate Minnesota, he'll be fine. They'll be like, oh, you're the guy that did the thing. That's cool. Like, you made snow cones? They won't remember. Like, they don't care. Most people don't know. Like, if you see this guy in your classroom, you're not going to be like, oh, that's the guy who shot. He's not going to come in and be like, hey, remember that time? 15 in the 9. Like, he's not going to be that guy. So it's not going to come up most of the time. And as time goes on, most people don't even remember Philando Castile. They're like, Philando Floyd, that guy who did all the fentanyl? They don't remember Castile, which may be sad because he seemed like a nice dude, school lunch teacher and all. I think he had weed on him, which I was like, no, who cares if he has, but it was illegal back then. It's more legal now, mostly legal. But yeah, they had, black guy lunchroom employee has weed on him. Is anybody? No one's surprised by that. No cop is like, oh, this is out of character. No, it's the most obvious thing in the world. So no one cares about any of that. They're all going to forget that shit. The question is, does a shooting have any impact on his ability to teach? And really, it doesn't, unless it's going to come up a lot. That's going to be dependent on age demographics. It's going to be dependent on cultural demographics, location of the school, all that stuff. The board here can be right. They can be wrong. It doesn't matter, though. The question is, does the appeals court, they don't say whether their decision is right. That's not their job. So do they have the authority to make the decision? That's what discretionary authority is. And they did say that they have the discretionary authority to do so. This manner is constitutional, whether you like the outcome or not. But ultimately, this isn't about that. This is about what I was saying earlier. It's about the reality that these cops face, or not even cops, but anybody, even self-defense shootings, when it becomes categorized as a racial incident by the mainstream media, by ultimately everyone. And that becomes a question. And then, of course, like, it's not like everybody piles on the person. Some people are like, yeah, that's fine. And other people are like, that's not what happened. So you have like the people who are like, don't shoot black people. And then you're like, they weren't even black. Kyle Rittenhouse one. Right. So that's a whole different thing. And then the other people are like, I don't care who he shot. It was self-defense. But you have this divide and it becomes a conversation. It's not like they automatically convince everybody that the person's racist. But the conversation about racism becomes enough of a question to disqualify people from life, maybe forever, depending on when this happened. Like, this is in, I think, 2018. Floyd was in 2020, died of COVID. You got the guy in Kenosha. I don't remember his name. He didn't even die. That guy's, I think, still breathing. Some cop should fix that. No, Judge, that's a joke. That's a joke. Was that a racist joke or an anti-cop joke? I don't know. Jacob Blake, that was his name. That's a good joke. Like, come on. But anyway, holy shit. Remember, we could say this stuff and not like worry about like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Of course I should have. It was funny. Nope. Shouldn't say that. Anyway, that guy's in a wheelchair. He's the next Stephen Hawking. Affirmative action, Stephen Hawking. That'd be my superhero. That'd be my superhero name for Jacob Blake. Is he alive? Let me check. I don't actually know. I think so. Jacob. Does anybody care? Blake. Jacob Blake. I don't know the shooting of Jacob Blake. Is he alive? He dismissed his lawsuit against Kenosha officers. Yeah, so he's still alive as of September 12th, 2023. Look at the Wikipedia real quick. He's a 29-year-old African-American man who was shot by police in August 2020, so he's still kicking. But no, probably not kicking. He's hit by 4 of 7 shots. That's less than 50 Cent. Fired at his back during an arrest by police officer Rustin Shesky. Blake did not die, but cannot move his body below his waist. He is paralyzed. So again, fired at his back. My man was about to take a car full of children that he was not entitled to take. He was stealing a car and kidnapping 2 children at the time, and had just fought police officers with a knife. The shooting happened in Kenosha on August 23rd, 2020. As officers were attempting to arrest Blake, there was an arrest warrant against Blake for criminal trespass, domestic abuse, and sexual assault. That's the trifecta, really. During the encounter, Blake was tasered and scuffled with officers. He pulled out a knife and tried to kill them. They tasered him. He was shot as he opened the driver's door to his SUV and leaned in. Obama gave him that advice, lean in. 3 of Blake's sons were in the back seat. I love how they say that. Blake's sons, he did not have custody rights to those kids. At that time, he was literally engaged in kidnapping, domestic kidnapping. Shooting was followed by protests, property damage, arson, and shooting deaths in downtown Kenosha. Shooting deaths. Sorry, pedos. Both the state of Wisconsin and the U.S. federal government decided not to charge police officer Rustin Shesky with a crime for the shooting because it wasn't a crime. literally putting children in danger that he did not have a right to. He was stealing an automobile. He's committing a felony, putting everybody around him in danger after fighting with police while having a knife, which he recovered. Was not following lawful orders. They shot him to protect everybody's safety. It was the right move. He's lucky to be alive. But yeah, I think affirmative action Stephen Hawking is a great name for him. Can we petition? Does wish.com? How do we get, what is the petition thing? Remember, there's that website where you can get a petition. It's like, can we call Jacob Blake affirmative action Stephen Hawking? But yeah, it was, that shooting was justified. Why are we talking about him? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah. I was talking about George Floyd died, Jacob Blake died. Nowadays, it depends on when you killed a person. But if it's now, if it's in current year, if that's what's going on, with that going on, the way they characterize these things, the way they vilify and demonize people for their actions, justified or not, it means that the action can never be justified. And this is a practical reality that these guys live with. For the rest of their lives, they'll be labeled racist murderers. They won't be able to get substitute teaching jobs. This guy's a teacher at a parochial school. He just wants a license to teach substitute as a, probably at public schools. He'll never be able to get it. Where else can he work? What can he do? Anyone who knows you, knows the name, remembers the story, you're done. If anybody Googles you, you're out. If anybody complains about you, then your employer Googles you, you're out. If they tweet to your employer, you're out, you're done. This is what they live with. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the story. I wanted to talk about everything that that kind of goes into this, because I don't think about it. Do you guys? Are you guys like, I wonder what Yanez is doing? That guy that shot Cassie? Yeah. The dreadlock killer? I wonder what he's doing on Thanksgiving or Christmas. I wonder what his job situation's like. I don't think about it unless it comes up in the news. Like, I don't think about Zimmerman or who was the guy that shot Mike Brown? I can't even remember his name. Let me see. Who shot Mike Brown? Who murdered Mike Brown? That's what I'm going to type in. Who murdered Michael Brown? I used to know his name. Darren Wilson. I can't even remember his name. He's named after a fucking volleyball and I can't remember him. Does anybody think about what like Darren Wilson's doing today? I don't. Maybe you guys do. If you do, kind of weird, but I love that you do. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I saw this news story and I was like, holy shit, these guys have it rough. They have a tough job. With that, we're an hour into the show. I'm going to do the Rumble flip. We're going to come back. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to go when I get back, but we are going to do the Rumble flip. I'm going to go to the bathroom, check on the house like I always do. It's kind of a new thing as I'm still streaming at this time of night. When daytime shows come around, it'll be a little different, but for now, that's where it is. I'm going to do the Rumble flip. It'll be 25 seconds to Rumble exclusivity. Thank you to the YouTube audience. If you want to join us, it's in the pinned chat, or it's in the description. Come over to Rumble. We'll go a little while longer, talk about a couple other stories, and then we'll say sayonara until tomorrow. There's no credit for that rhyme. But if you don't want to go to Rumble, or if you do, either way, make sure you click like on your way out of YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't want to go to Rumble, we'll see you next time, which is tomorrow, on YouTube. And we'll catch you then, guys. Have a good night. Peace. Peace, Rumble. We're coming to you, on you, and in you.